everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at one of the latest in the DC Deckbuilding line of games. This is DC Deckbuilding Justice League Dark. This one is going to give us a look at the darker side of DC with magic-y, occult things. You get some John Constantine and Ragman and Man-Thing, various things like that. So the general idea here is very much like the other DC deck building games, with a couple of small twists along the way. If you don't know how to play DC deck building game, this is hopefully going to give you enough of an idea so you understand. But it's very straightforward generally. You have a hand of cards, you spend them to buy new things or punch the big bad, and you are going to try to get the most victory points. This is not a cooperative game. You are out for yourself, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner. Let's go ahead and take a look at how it all comes together. The general flow of the game and the general idea is going to be the same as in pretty much every other DC deck building game. Players are going to be using their deck of cards and their hand of cards in order to punch the main baddie, to get victory points, to buy cards. At the end of the game, you're going to be adding these values up, and whoever has the most victory points is going to be the winner of the game. There's a stack of weakness cards. You want to avoid these. These over here are all the same, and you can buy them. Costs are down here, and power in this game, which will be generated by cards in your hand, can be used to buy cards from this center lineup or punch the big bad over here. Same thing. You're basically buying them. And then, you've conquered that. We would reveal the next one after that. We run down that entire deck and we finish the game, or the central deck of cards runs out. Now, in this one, there's a couple of different things that we haven't seen in games of DC deck building before. A couple of ideas. The main one is the idea of sealing cards away. So everybody gets one of these tokens, and you are going to be able to, through various effects in the game, seal away cards. So, for example, the most obvious way is when you take out one of these super villains, they do not make the way into your deck. You are going to do whatever effect they say. In this case, reward is sealing the top two cards of the main deck, and then it itself becomes sealed. What does that mean? Well, the top two cards of the main deck just means grab the top two cards here. And this one itself, you add that to it, and then you seal them below this token, meaning they do not make their way into your deck of cards. So this game has built into it a mechanism in which your deck of cards stays pretty thin. You are able to manipulate more easily what you make, put into rotation, basically, what you make show up. And that you can do that without giving up the victory points. So you'll still score these cards for their victory points, again, seen down here, but you don't have to deal with them being shuffled into your deck and coming up every time you go through that deck again. And so again, the next one would now come up. They have a first appearance. Something bad would happen here to everybody. And you're off and running, okay? The other thing that's a big change is these transformed cards. Many of the cards will say transform by doing something. So for example, this one here says transform. If you have 4 or more sealed superpowers in here, then you may seal this card, and if you do, you gain witch-marked Cirque into your hand. So you'd go in here, and you'd find the transformed one, and put that, there you go, that one basically, and you are going to gain that into your hand. If you can't do that, it says otherwise, then you just seal a superpower from the lineup. Pretty good. You take a card from here and seal it, and you keep the victory points, right? If you still can't do that, then this card is just +2 power. So transforming cards is going to let you basically level a card up. Take one and make it into a super version of itself. You can also revert cards. There's some mechanisms that let you go from the transformed back into the normal one, like Shazam will do that sometimes and just become Billy Batson again. So that's another main mechanism in the game, and using those two things, you are going to have a lot of new manipulation that can happen. One final thing that is not as big of a mechanism, but is still a big part of the game feel, is Surge. And so you'll see on some cards, they'll say Surge, and that means that you are going to grab a card from the deck and reveal it and add it to the lineup. So the lineup is going to be going above 5 cards more regularly than in other Justice League or DC deck building games. So you're going to be seeing that a little bit more, where you have cards come up above and beyond the normal limit for the game. The characters that come in the game, a lot of them are going to let you seal cards, are going to manipulate what bonuses you get when you seal various things, that kind of effect. So there you go, that's what's going on. You're still getting a normal starting deck of cards that has fairly weak things like Punch for +1 power. You know, you have this, which is literally nothing. You have this card in here, though, a Sealed Defense. It has a transform ability. You can pay 3 power, and if you do, you seal this away, and you get a better version of this. You get this card right here, the Defend, okay? And players can still attack each other, defend each other. If I play a card that goes after another player and they're holding a defense card like this one, they could play it and stop that attack. But you are also very much focusing on taking out the big bad, and that's going to give you a whole lot of victory points because that's what you're going for at the end of the day. So there you go. That is the general flow and general idea of the game, and some of the new mechanisms that make this one distinct from the ones that have come before it. DC Deck Building game has had a storied and somewhat convoluted history. There are a lot of releases in this line of games. Some of them are cooperative, some of them have changed the formula quite a bit, and I've honestly not followed it that closely, though I liked the first few releases in the line. And I would say I did mess a little bit with the last one. What I consider to be the last one was Injustice. And I would say that I consider Justice League Dark here to be, in my opinion, a return to form for this series of games. It feels a little bit like a reset. It feels a little bit like a shoring up weaknesses that had become apparent over time. I thought Injustice was too different. It shook up the formula. It certainly did that. But it was so much that it really felt like a different game. I thought Injustice was its own thing. It was so distinct, so convoluted in many ways. And this is streamlined. Every mechanism that is put in place here that wasn't from a previous iteration of the game is there in order to streamline something. This feels targeted. This feels like it was designed purposefully. The idea of sealing away cards, of the evolution, the idea of surging and flipping over new cards to the table, all three of those mechanisms work in tandem to give you a more focused play experience. The game manages to let you see a lot of things, but lets you not have to contend with bloat in your player deck as much. It lets you focus a little more. It lets you be more precise, more surgical in your play style. And I like that very much. Now, one of the few negatives here is that this one I don't think will mix as well with other DC deck building products. You can get an expansion, which kind of makes that happen a little bit, but because you are sealing away the bad guys and they don't become part of your main deck, it's going to be a little tricky. To the point that yes, if you are a completionist and you want to do that, then you'll find a way to do it. I think this is a really fantastic standalone game. I think this is one that I would recommend to people if they want something that feels a little bit more modern, is going to give them that dark flavor. If you enjoy that sort of aspect of the DC comics, you're going to get it here. And it just stands incredibly well on its own. Yes, you could get the expansion and throw that into it if you want to. It's a small expansion. It mixes it up a little tiny bit. But this is a fantastic standalone product. It gets hurt because it doesn't mix as well, but you don't need to do that. I think this one is going to go the distance. So I very much enjoy it. I think it is a return to form, in my opinion. It's nice to see them kind of come back to basics and not just go on an exploratory journey, which is kind of what Injustice felt like, but pick specific things that they've found to be weaknesses and players in general have found to be weaknesses and target those things. Is the game still a little bit too long? Yeah, I still think it's a little bit too long overall. But at least it now targets and is able to contend with a deck that has become shapeless and has so many cards you don't even see the stuff you bought a while ago. Some of the thematic ideas of a big super villain now helps you. Some of those things have seen their way out. So I like it. I like it quite a bit. This one's going to get an 8 out of 10 from me. That is a seal of approval, folks, for DC Deck Building Justice League Dark. If I was going to recommend any one of these right now to folks that haven't played any of them, this is my recommendation. Try this one out if you've never tried it, and if you used to play and kind of fell off the wagon, want to give it another shot, this is a good one to jump back into. I think it's really well put together. So there you go, 8 out of 10 for Justice League Dark, and that's going to do it for me, everybody. My name is Z Garcia. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. And you can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.